Hey, Craig.
It's on you, it's all on me. Can't you see? It's on you, it's all on me. You and me, can't you? It's on you, it's on me.
Hey, Craig. Right or wrong, we don't care. Win or lose, we don't care. We don't care. We don't care. We don't care.
Hey, Jeff.
What's up, dude?
We found time. Last week
did.
was tricky, but we're finding time now. And it's also without like a sports season, it's hard to have that rhythm of like this happened. There were games coming, or there's games that have happened, and we need to record. But we're gonna have to be better about it, Jeff. We'll just get better about planning. I think that'll be the big.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, it's just, it's sort of like, at this point, we feel like if we record, it might be dated by tomorrow morning because maybe another basketball player has left or come or something, but that's all right. We're jumping in with both feet on this one. We're just going to push forward, even if something happens between now and tomorrow. And by the way, it's Monday night. We're recording on Monday night.
And we're pushing forward with episode 217 of Podcast versus Everyone. I'm Craig Powers. With me as usual is Jeff Nusser. And Jeff, we've been so much on the basketball train for so long with a team going to the tournament, a men's team going to the tournament, and then, a coach leaving, a coach being hired, all of that, that we've been really stuck on basketball. But you know what? This week, the spring game is coming up this weekend. We finally got some footage, which I'll let you talk about. Finally got some footage of a scrimmage from Wazoo on YouTube. So there are things to talk about other than just practice reports. The spring ball is coming to a close. The spring game on Sunday or on Saturday. And I hope people are making it out to Pullman. I can't make it out to Pullman. I promised my mom I'd take her to get oysters, her favorite food in the world, for her birthday, which is on Saturday. So I'm staying home to watch it. But any of you who in Pullman, I'll be jealous because spring game's like the perfect time, perfect football weekend is spring game.
Yeah,
because there's just nothing bad about it. But so. It's an interesting year, obviously, because new quarterback coming in. We're gonna have a new quarterback. There was quite a few departures here and there, although not as many as we probably were fearing at the start. But there was still quite a few playmakers that we lost. So there's a lot to look out for. Obviously, we've been dealing with a pretty bad offensive line for a few years. Again, of course, we're not going to learn a lot on that because there's a lot of guys that are out on the offensive line. So, but Jeff, I know you watched that 7-minute clip that you finally got, and one thing is the Jeff wrote about this. So if you're a newsletter reader, you're going to know that it's been hard to get clips from Wazoo from the spring practices. There's just been like occasional Instagram, like 20-second reels and stuff like that of like individual plays. So there hasn't been a lot, of us people that aren't going to the practices to really gauge anything on. But finally, WSU, their last scrimmage, they released a 7-minute video, and I would love to hear, Jeff. I know you watched it. What stuck out to you in those 7 minutes of highlights?
Well, it's tough to tell a whole lot because it's kind of the local TV news broadcast type angle, which is like real low, real tight, like really pretty much just like focused on the ball. So it's kind of tough to draw too many conclusions from it. just in terms of like you can't really see what's going on in the line. You really can just see the ball get snapped to the quarterback, and whatever the quarterback does with it, that's kind of what you get. So all that said, the observations are fairly limited. Obviously you mentioned, the big thing, you got the quarterback battle. So you got John Mateer and I believe it's Zevi Eckhaus, the transfer from, I think it's Bryant FCS school, where he threw for a ton of yards and was a very accomplished passer. And so you've got these two guys, and it very much, to me, sort of has the vibe of Mateer is very much in the front. It's very much John Mateer's job to lose, and they are making sure that they keep up at least the appearance of a competition. I don't think it's a total, farce of a competition. Like, I really do think that there is, a plausible opportunity for Eckhaus to win that job if he, performs better than Mateer. But you also get the sense that there's not, not any, that's not happening right now. That Eckhaus is doing fine. Mateer's doing fine. And if those are the two results, then they're probably going to go with Mateer. Like, just the comments that people are making, coaches, are making, sort of give off the indication of, hey, Mateer's our guy, but he's got to bring it every day. It's a very much that, football coach mentality. So there's that. And then just kind of watching the two of them, that is one of the things you could see is, the two of them throw and move in the pocket and things like that. And the one thing that really stood out watching the video is that Eckhaus really does have some movement with his legs. And I think we feel pretty good about John Mateer's ability with his legs, given that, he was brought in a number of times to do that. But Eckhaus, I think, is faster. Mateer's a little bit more of almost like a power running back kind of style and kind of size. Eckhaus, he's got some scoots on him. He had a couple of scrambles in the scrimmage that were like, whoa, like he just kind of popped as somebody kind of moving a little bit. And then he also seems very slippery in the pocket. He just has this presence and this ability to move in the pocket. Now, that doesn't do you a whole lot of good in a spring scrimmage, because the moment you get touched, the play is over. Yeah. So, some of his elusiveness, I think, was not really helping him out a whole ton, but you could just kind of see the way he moved, and he found little creases to duck into. And that seems like something that would really be an asset. Of course, throwing the ball is what, matters the most. Mateer seems to pretty clearly have the stronger arm. But Eckhaus seems very accurate. So, it's one of those things where in a spring scrimmage, it's tough to tell how much of a limiting factor that really is. If he's maybe doesn't have the strongest arm, versus in a real game where, you may want to really be stretching vertically and then you can't. So at any rate, they both look, competent. So, there was that piece. But no real,
it's not
nothing
like
really distinguishing the two of them, it looked like. So
it's not like I remember you and I going to the spring game in 2019, and Anthony Gordon was just so obviously better than every other quarterback that we had out there. There was like ostensibly, we're still doing we had the Cam Cooper and whatever else. So there was a competition. I believe they brought Gabe Gabrut in, and so there was a competition. But then we watched Anthony Gordon operate the offense, and he was just I think he threw for like 100 touchdowns in that fucking game. I swear.
Seemed like
so what I'm hearing is Mateer is not separating himself like that.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah.
But and I would say the scrimmage, the other thing they haven't really done is give like complete stats or anything like that. But they actually did give a passing line for both guys. Eckhaus was a little more explosive, but only marginally so. And it's tough to say too, because you don't really know who was catching passes from whom. For example, there is one receiver I do want to point out. and it's Freeman. I think Tony Freeman. And he's a JUCO transfer, and that dude is fucking fast. Like
Right.
he had a catch and run for about, I don't know, 50 or 60 yards. And that's why it's kind of tough to tell, because I don't recall which quarterback threw that ball to him, but he like when he caught it, man, he was scooting. And then he also had a punt return for a touchdown in the game, which, you know, we haven't seen too many of those, but again, he just was sort of like flying past everybody. So that was one that stood out. And then as far as the rest of the receivers go, I didn't really see a whole lot to make me think, you know, that anybody was particularly noteworthy. Kyle Williams is sitting out again because he's apparently taking care of some schoolwork. So I don't know, man. I don't know what else to draw
Take
from
care
it
of that
defensively.
schoolwork, Kyle. We want you to play
Yeah.
during the season.
I mean, defensively, I don't know what you really can see, because the ball, you know, the camera's just on the ball the whole time. So,
Yeah.
I mean, you can kind of see, you know, defensive players knifing in, linebackers especially. You know, there's a freshman who's impressing people, but again, I can't say that, you know, I had, you know, any personal high level observations of the linebackers. So there you go. I mean, that's what I saw. That's what I noticed. You know, the running backs looked very pedestrian. Tough to say whether that's bad offensive line play or just maybe they're not very good. I don't know. A lot of offensive linemen sitting out, as you mentioned. So
It's interesting. What I keep thinking about this, and I was thinking about it earlier today, is when we look at some of these guys, and you're talking about the speed of Freeman, you know, the strength of Mateer. Like, you just look at the schedule WSU is playing this year versus what they played last year, and some of those physical attributes will have a much bigger impact against a lot of the Mountain West schools than they would have against Oregon and UW and UCLA and USC, you know.
Yep.
So it's
true.
So yeah, that's exciting to have a guy that is a burner, because maybe he would be the fastest guy on the field more often, you know.
Yeah.
So, you know, not to say, like, there's obviously good football teams in the Mountain West, like, pretty consistently, but like the depth of it, what WSU had to face last year in their schedule was an insane run. The Pac-12 was so good, and there's just not as much as that this year. So just having guys that can make plays and having guys that have that are physically gifted, like that's encouraging, at least. And then obviously we'll watch the game on Saturday. So look what I'd be looking for on Saturday is, you know, the quarterback battle, obviously, how they're performing, how they're running the offense, you know, how much would they give, you know, in terms of like how much they're gonna. It seems like they might, based on how they've used Mateer in the past, like they would have more designed runs for him than they had for Cam, because they just seem to like to use him like a running back, but they might not do that if he's the top quarterback, obviously.
Yeah.
But so it'll be interesting to see kind of if they do anything interesting on offense. I'm excited to see this Freeman kid now, and you know, and having a return, a guy who has return capability, that could be huge too. WSU is kind of few and far between had talent in that regard. Obviously, we had some good ones recently, but we go a long time between return touchdowns, it seems. But yeah, it's So you know, again, it's hard to judge the offensive lines often in these, because there's a lot of like sacks that are given that wouldn't have been sacks in real games, and things like that. But I hope, you know, who's broadcasting that? Where are we watching this broadcast? I don't even know.
I assume it'll be on Pac-12 Network.
Yeah, I guess Pac-12 Network.
Probably Chaz now, I would imagine.
Yeah, so
I
we
think
still
that's
got
what they did last
Pac-12. Pac-12 Network still running that stuff. Okay.
year. Yeah.
I'm just not sure when.
There were multiple broadcasts this past weekend of spring games. So
yeah.
still on Pac-12 Network. for the time being. I think Pac-12 Network runs up until the end of June. I think is what I
Okay.
read. So
When you say
so we
multiple,
still got more.
were they broadcasting? So I wasn't even paying attention this weekend. Were they broadcasting like
Yes.
departing teams spring
Yes.
games?
Oh yes.
Holy
Oh,
shit! I
yes.
got to go back and find those because I just want to hear.
Yogi was out at USC.
Oh my god! Are you kidding? Like the number
I'm
one
not
Pac-12
I'm
shill.
not even remotely kidding. I'm not even
I
remotely
have to
kidding.
go. I have to find this. I have to find it. He's like the
Yeah.
number one Pac-12 shill for
Yes.
10 years. And
Yes. Yes. And then he's out there at USC doing their spring game before they head off to the Big Ten. So
yeah, literally, like, so the Pac-12 is broadcasting 10 spring games of teams that are not in they're not in the Pac-12 anymore. These football teams, at least, they're not.
Yeah.
Like, they're never going to play another
Correct.
Pac-12 conference game. Like,
Yep.
so, like, that's wild.
Yep.
I was just out of it this weekend, I guess, and I didn't even follow any of that. That's hilarious.
I mean, I didn't follow it either. I just saw some tweets and was like, oh my God, it's so hilarious. So very hilarious.
Oh man. Yeah,
Yeah,
this is all very hilarious. I love it.
Yeah. When I watch the game, by the way, what I'm going to be looking for is kind of what you mentioned with Anthony Gordon. Like I want to see who pops, and we can kind of go back through, the last however many years and just kind of be like, oh, wow. Whoa. That guy pops. Like, I mean, I think you and I both have a pretty vivid memory of Frankie Louvu just sort of like destroying everything in his path up in Spokane.
Yep.
And being like, oh, yeah,
He
that's
got
different.
better.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. And I mean, there's just, lots of them like that. And I think even the spring game last year, with between Josh Kelly and Kyle Williams and feeling like, oh yeah, okay, we're going to be okay. Like these guys, we're going to be all right at receiver. They look fine. And it turned out that they were fine. They were good. So, no big deal there. So like, as I watch this one, I kind of want to see the same thing. Now, I don't know. I suspect that Freeman's going to pop. I mean, he kind of reminds me of, DT Sheffield, honestly, from a year ago. Renard Bell, he just kind of looks like that kind of player. And then the other guys, running backs, like, I don't know, do any of the running backs look like they're going to be dynamic? Like I said in the video, I mean, they didn't look great, but who knows what that means. Like, I just kind of want to see if somebody jumps off the screen, and then the secondary, that's the other place where I want to see if somebody jumps off the screen, because we're replacing just about everybody in the secondary. So again, just kind of want to be able to watch them, things we couldn't see on that video today, to kind of see how they look, if they look comfortable and dynamic on that back end.
Awesome. Yeah. So spring ball, as everyone knows who's listened to this for years, our most favorite thing to talk about. Spring football.
Yes, because you can learn everything from spring football.
Yeah. But yeah, it's funny how less attention has been spent on it this year because of the men's basketball team having a great season and then having coach drama. So
just chaos for the last 2 months.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, it's basically been like this is the first time where it's really like, probably this last weekend was the first time where people were like, oh yeah, the spring football is happening. Like that's right.
Well, I know it snuck up on me. Like last week I was like, oh, I better do some stuff to learn about football. And then that's when I discovered there weren't really any videos or anything. And like, now it's like, holy shit, man, we're in the last week. This is it.
Yep.
This is it. Crimson and Gray game on Saturday. So.
Yep. Absolutely. But yeah, speaking of reasons why we haven't been paying attention to football, there actually has been a lot of stuff going on still.
Yes.
Because obviously it's transfer season, and WSU basically has whittled down the roster. The roster has been whittled down quite a bit by guys entering the portal, guys heading places. Obviously, we saw We saw Clough head to South Dakota State, which was probably one of the weirder ones. And then we saw Yaki going to Colorado, Miles Rice going to Indiana. Am I forgetting one?
Ruben Chinyelu to Florida.
Ruben Chinyelu to Florida to
Yep.
our friend John out there in Florida.
Jabe going to Montana State.
Montana State, which I think that's a good spot for him. I think also,
and we may
Wazoo
have neglected to mention Dylan Darling to Idaho State.
Oh, Dylan Darling to Idaho State, of course, which I think that's also a really good spot for him. I think that's a really good spot for him as well. I think he's going to be like a defensive monster. And if he just starts hitting shots, he's going to dominate.
He's going to, he's going to fly up quick.
Because he's going to be in the big sky, like his height on defense is not really going to matter. Like we know he's really good with his feet. And he's strong. So Clough to South Dakota State was interesting. I know people are like, what, do we not have the NIL to match South Dakota State? And that's probably not the case. It was probably just that maybe new coaching staff said, we don't really have a place for you. Or maybe Oscar was like, I don't really want to hang around anymore because I wanted to play for Shaw or something. So like I definitely doubt that one was a money issue. Now Miles, that's one, he's probably like, well, I want to play in a top tier conference, and two, he definitely got paid. No doubt.
He got paid. Indiana was throwing around money like you would. Yeah,
Indiana signed him, the kid from Stanford,
Keenan Carlisle,
and then Umar Ballo as well. Yep. I don't know what the roster is going to be. I was like, Umar going to love those 17-footers. When Miles misses that 17-footer, Umar's going to be right there to dunk it back in.
I'm not exaggerating when I say that I think they paid around $2.5 million for those three guys.
I think it was I might have been close to 3, to be honest.
It might be.
Umar Ballo himself was like,
he was
1.2. Yeah.
I'm guessing Miles was like 7 or 8. I don't know if anything's been reported on that one. I would guess Carlisle's like 4 or 5.
Yeah, so
that'd be my guess. So I don't know. It's 2.5 to 3. But that's no shit. $2.5 to $3 million for those three guys.
And we know Ruben got paid real well.
Yep.
So
he got taken care of.
But that's the thing, like the NIL numbers have exploded this season way faster than I even could have ever anticipated.
Yeah.
I do think the numbers are getting wild.
They are. They're getting super wild, which tells me, I don't know what you think about this, but everybody expects them to keep going up, but the rate at which they have gone up suggests to me that we are still nowhere near the ceiling of what the market will support on these things. Like, it's one thing if you're seeing, 5%, maybe 10%, year over year. We're seeing like 30, 40, 50, 60% increases year over year over the last couple of years. And so I'm like, all right, well, I don't know where the ceiling is, but I'll bet we're not close. Like it's going to be kind of crazy. And it's going to be it's just, we're not going to be able to compete in that kind of a space. We're just not. And, we might be able to compete occasionally here and there. Andre is one that I thought maybe we could compete for. I don't think he's getting a huge payday at Colorado. I think he's getting a pretty modest one. But also, I don't know, man. Andre said all his goodbyes at senior day. Like, again, we know that senior day doesn't mean anything necessarily, but, there's a part of me that just kind of wondered if he was just, he's 4 years in Pullman and he showed up during COVID, and it's like, I don't know, man. Maybe he's from North Macedonia. Maybe he just wants to go do something different, go play somewhere else. I don't blame, everybody he played with is gone, so.
Tad Boyle is also a great coach, and also everyone under him seems to shoot free throws well. So maybe Yaki gonna fix those free throws in Boulder.
That's it. Tad Boyle must see something there that he's like, I can turn.
Let's be honest,
an 80% free throw shooter.
If Yaki can hit 40 from 3 and 80% from the free throw line, dude's gonna have a long career in Europe. Like,
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we still have, we still got hope that, Jalen Wells, he's exploring the NBA, still not in the portal, so that's good news. Isaiah Watts, not in the portal, so he's, we assume he'll be back. And then the other guys that are up in the air are just Kamani and Joseph Yesufu. Those are kind of only the other two guys
both
that
in the
are up in the air. They're both in the portal, but there hasn't really been a ton of smoke around those guys.
With Kamani, I'm not like crazy surprised. He definitely has assets, but like, yeah, he really hasn't changed a ton his first 2 years as a player.
He obviously doesn't shoot, and shooting does matter a lot in Riley's system, but Riley also values like guys who can generate mismatches, and Kamani is so good at that.
Kamani in the West Coast Conference, like, be eating like point guards alive, in the post.
He posts up. So him in that offense getting post ups, now does the lack of shooting gum everything up? I don't know, but
if he's the only guy on the floor that can't. I mean, WSU, if we remember last year, Kamani, the season before this one, Kamani often played the 5. Like, he's versatile. I think, like, someone's got to want him. And I would love him. I would love if he came back. Like, I think there's still a lot there. And I there's just, he's frustrating, but it's just, there's a physical talent and the passing ability, the defensive ability. Like, he's got tools. He just can't shoot. But honestly,
he can shoot a little, just a little.
His 3-point percentage was like almost as good as, I think, maybe better than Rice's this year. And it was, although Rice takes a lot more difficult ones.
It was better.
But it was definitely better than Isaac Jones, who has a much nicer looking stroke.
It's true. It's true.
But yeah. So Kamani and we saw Spencer Mahoney is in the portal as well. I don't think he's landed. Has he landed anywhere?
No. But that one seems very like coach told him what his role was going to be, and he was like, decided he would go.
All right, let's flip it. So we got this.
Yeah, guys are coming in.
Barren roster, but so far. Riley seems to be bringing in his guys, and so who is officially committed so far? It was Ethan Price, right?
Ethan Price
and Lawan Watts.
Yeah, those are the two guys so far.
And so both those guys. I mean, Price is good size, 6'10", can shoot threes.
Yep.
It's hard, wasn't a particularly great rebounder, even in the Big Sky. So it seems very much like a 6'10" guy that focuses on the perimeter a lot.
As Bomani Jones likes to say, there's a difference between big man and tall man.
Yeah.
And Ethan Price seems like tall man.
Yeah, like his offensive rebounding percentage of 2.4 at 6'10" in the Big Sky is like,
I think that tells you as much about where he ends up positioned on the offensive end as also, it does anything else.
It also tells you a little bit about Riley's philosophy, in which he does not attack the offensive glass. So
which is a bummer.
Yeah, I know,
because we do love that.
Yeah, because you ain't always going to shoot well.
And they were a terrible shot volume team too.
Yeah,
low offensive rebound, low and high turnover.
High
percentage.
turnover
so
percentage.
I don't know. Maybe we can figure that out.
And force too many turnovers. They did. They did defensive rebound well.
Yeah.
Yep. They were
pretty good. Pretty good offense for such low shot volume. So
yeah. But and then so the other guy is Lawan Watts. Actually, like he's
Yep.
really interesting to me. Wide bodied,
Yes.
6'6" guy.
Yeah. Definitely a
he-
straight up forward.
So one thing that's interesting about him to me is you look at a lot of these Eastern guys and you look at their overall numbers, but then you look at them at their tier A and B and tier A numbers, which they're categorized by KenPom. So it's kind of like the quad 1 and quad 2 thing.
Yep.
KenPom categorizes them a little bit differently, but so like the top teams, like Ethan Price's numbers plummet quite a bit. He doesn't shoot as well. He's grabbing even fewer rebounds. He's turning it over roughly the same. He's not getting to the free throw line nearly as much as he did against Big Sky opponents. So that's interesting. But when you look at Watts, he strangely has like an undersized 4. His numbers are kind of the same, regardless of who they
Yeah.
played. Like it's
Even
yeah.
better, honestly, against the
Yeah.
tier A and B.
yeah. It was
Yep.
so that's very encouraging, and he actually like was a defensive rebounding monster against like
Yeah.
the top tier teams.
Yeah. He's a load.
So yeah, definitely. So both guys I think could be solid contributors.
Yeah.
You gotta love guys that just have guys that can shoot. Watts doesn't
Yep.
shoot a lot, but he made them when he shot them. And Price shoots a lot of jumpers and still has a very high percentage, so that's good. So yeah. And then we also got lost Jen Greeny's nephew to Stanford, right?
Ooh. Yeah.
Where Jen herself turned down Stanford for Wazoo, and look now.
Yeah. Well, the shoe's on the other foot now.
Yeah.
Oh well.
But yeah, then yeah, Jen has told me she could have played for Tara Vanderveer.
Yeah. Yeah.
She showed me that
but we picked up
offer,
but we
so
did pick up another high school player.
So it was Utah State commit that they flipped that Riley had recruited when he was at Eastern, and now I'm forgetting his name.
Case, why not?
Case, why not? Why not?
Why not? I'm sure he's never heard that before. Ever.
So the one thing I've really seen from him is you shared that him at like the Idaho State like all-star game, winning the 3-point contest and hitting like 30 of 33 from the top of the key.
30 of 33.
Honestly, great looking shot, good looking feet.
His jumper looks awesome.
Yeah.
Like his balance was really good. Like he's got a nice high release, 6'6". Really he's described as a point guard. So that should be kind of super interesting. I know he's a bit of a project in the sense that, he's gonna have to adjust to the college game, after playing, small high school ball in Idaho and all that. But, he was committed to Utah State under Danny Sprinkle. Danny Sprinkle now at Washington, and Danny Sprinkle apparently really wanted him to come to Washington too. And he ended up coming to Wazoo. He's, it's been speculated that he wanted to be close to home. He's from is it Lapway or Lapwai? Sorry, people in Idaho. I do not live in Idaho, but it's apparently just a little under an hour away from Pullman, and it's been speculated that was important to him. So hey, you know what? For once, it worked out for us. Pullman's location. So excited to have him on board. Seems like a guy who, may get some, sort of like minor contributing minutes off the bench this year. Guy you're, really kind of trying to develop, and you do still have to have, some of those guys. I mean, at this point, it doesn't seem like you can have all that many, but you do still have to have a few. And David Riley has demonstrated that's been a strength of his, both as an assistant and as the head coach, is, helping guys develop into guys that, really nobody necessarily saw or projected. So exciting for him. And there's a whole bunch of other guys out on the radar, especially Eastern guys, being obviously tied, in terms of contact with WSU. Cedric Coward is the big one. Casey Jones is another one. Dane Erickstrip is another one. Coward and Jones are similar type players, just in terms of like size and skill set and things like that. Coward a little more of a shooter, but pretty similar in those ways.
Jones, that free throw rate. I just want to.
Yeah. Casey Jones has. I don't remember ever looking closely at a player and seeing that kind of a free throw rate. So why don't you tell the folks about his free throw rate?
So Casey Jones, free throw rate, for those who don't know, is basically your free throw attempts divided by your field goal attempts times 100. So it's basically the percentage of free throw attempts compared to your field goal attempts, and then they times by 100 to give it a nice number. So his free throw rate is first nationally last season at 101.9, which means the whole country. He shoots more free throws than field goal attempts, and that is insane. Like, that is insane.
212 free throw attempts. 212. 212.
And he had 208 field goal attempts, and he shot 212
okay.
free throw attempts.
So just for context, Isaac Jones shot 191 free throws last year. Okay. And his free throw rate was 55 because he also shot 350 field goal attempts. Yeah, 55 is really good. That's top 100 in the country. What Casey Jones did last year, that is one of the most absurd, I think, stats I've ever seen. I don't know what kind of player I would expect to have a totally crazy free throw rate, but I don't think a 6'6", 220 wing would be the guy that I would imagine to do that. But
so I would think either a big that almost solely is like gets his points off of putbacks, or a point guard, a pass first point guard who's good at getting to the rim. That's only there's only two. It would definitely not be a 6'6" wing.
Yeah, that's not what I would expect. So, but having watched him play, I don't know how many people remember him, but he is extremely physical. Like he's 6'6", 220, very strong.
Very frustrating
really
to play
physical.
Against. I would say not to watch your team play against.
Yes. He does a lot of the stuff I feel like that Isaac Jones does to draw free throws. Not that he's a pure post player, but just the way that he leverages his long arms and gets contact and, is able to get shots off. So yeah, it would be a really nice player, really nice.
And he wears goggles.
He wears goggles. Yes, he wears goggles.
And he shares the name with a major Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles character. One of the coolest ones.
Yeah. I mean, I get the meme potential there. I mean, Morgan is just like twirling her, like villain mustache right now. Like, not that Morgan has a mustache, but you know what I mean. So Casey Jones would be a real nice guy to add. Cedric Coward would be a real nice guy to add. Dane Erickstrip would be a real nice guy to add. They'd all be super nice guys to add, but then that would also mean that you'd have probably Eastern's starting five for your starting five, depending on Jalen Wells. Eastern last year was finished the year ranked 152 in Ken Palm, which is not bad. Like that's, that's better than like every year of Ernie. But still, it's like that's not really the standard. And in the WCC, that makes you like the fourth or fifth best team most years in that conference. So I guess I'll put
far
the question
below the top 2 or 3. Like if you're 150, you're well below Gonzaga and St. Mary's, and you're probably quite a bit below San Francisco.
Yeah, I mean you're sort of like middle of the pack at 152. So the question I'll put to you that I'm curious what you think about. So like is is becoming EWU South. Is that is that a good idea? Is that going to get us where we want to be? So I guess I'll just kind of lay out both sides, and you can tell me what you think. So like on the one hand, you go, okay, these guys were all together and they were 152. Okay. On the other, you would say that, the bottom half of the roster, or at least the other half of the roster, in theory is going to be filled with guys who are at a higher level than what the rest of the roster was filled out with at Eastern, right? So like in theory, that's what you get. I mean, obviously we haven't had a whole bunch of commits yet to fill out the roster, but we're still pretty early in the transfer phase. This is the part of the transfer season where, WSU being kind of in the middle, is maybe looking to see, okay, who falls through the cracks, who doesn't get, the kind of deal they were looking for, and maybe they end up, WSU. So there's kind of all that out there. And then I think the other piece is, I mean, isn't there something to be said for these guys all getting better, like that they haven't all just, topped out. And that as folks who are, in their third or fourth years of their college career, that, there's still some meat left on the bone there developmentally. And just, if all those guys, if everybody had come back to Eastern, you'd expect them to be better than 152. So maybe there's something to be said for that at Wazoo. So I don't know. What side do you land on there?
So I land on a side of heavy skepticism. So I think it's going to be tough if you're filling out this roster with Easter guys, even with improvement. Like, what are you hoping for? Maybe barely a top 100 team after we were a top 50 team this year.
Yeah.
That would be a bummer to kind of take a step back to the first year of Kyle Smith's help. But I think I don't necessarily want all these guys to be the 5 best players on the team. I would love if they added 2 or 3 guys that push some of these Eastern guys to the bench. And then you look at having, if you keep Jalen and you bring in another transfer, or you keep Yusufu, or you keep Kamani with him, and then maybe you add another, I don't know, just you put your 8-man rotation, you have all those Eastern guys in, but maybe a couple of them are coming off the bench. Obviously, Eric Strip came off the bench for them last year. Wouldn't be crazy for him, but if he came, but and I don't think it'd be crazy either, because none of these guys had insane usage rates that they would be giving up and they'd be pissed.
Correct.
Riley's system is very much spreading the ball out. The only guy that had a high usage was Eric Strip, and he played off the bench, so he just kind of came in and shot a bunch, and then he went to the bench. So I think they would be okay if there wouldn't be any players getting pissed off. Cedric Coward's usage was only 21%. That's low for a top guy, And so Casey Jones is 23%. That's only because he drew so many damn fouls. But yeah, a lot of their guys, it's it's spread out. So if you keep Jalen, although who knows, that even if he doesn't go to the NBA, I think there's got to be people in his ear.
There has to be.
Go get money. Especially if they get a percentage of that money. They're definitely gonna be go get money.
And that is a huge part of it, by the way. Just to sort of as a side note, these advisors / agents / handlers, whatever you want to call them. Yeah, I mean the rates, the commission fees that they charge are pretty crazy. So it depends. It does depend. A lot of times how hard those guys are pushing to get them a deal. Not that players are incapable of calling their own shots, but if the agent, and that's sort of the job of an agent, right, is to come up with a win-win deal where everybody gets paid, right? And if Jalen doesn't have that kind of a guy, pushing him, then maybe we've got a little better chance. And I would suspect that whatever NIL we do have, we're able to throw it at Jalen, and with everybody else being gone. And I don't think that's a bad strategy. Like typically I would be like, gosh, spread that money around. And I'm like, I don't know. I mean, maybe spread some of it around to Cedric Coward. That'd be great. Maybe spread some of it around to Casey Jones. Fine. But, whatever it takes to get Jalen Wells back, I think that's kind of where you need to go. And,
because
if you add him to all the Eastern guys, then I mean, that's a pretty different equation.
Right. Because if you think about it this way, sure, you bring in those guys. Yeah, we're top half of the conference. You're probably even better than Oregon State. So you're gonna win a lot of games in the WCC, but that doesn't mean a lot. San Francisco went 11-5 in WCC last year, and they weren't even close to a tournament team. Santa Clara went 10-6; they're not even close to a tournament team. They were 65 and 109 respectively on KenPom. So if you want to compete with those top two heavy hitters, actually, you have to kind of be at that level to get an at-large bid out of this conference. Like you're gonna have to bring in high major quality players, and if you could keep Jalen Wells, if you could pull in a down transfer. I mean, let's be honest, it's a down transfer now. Like I'm sorry to state that reality, but it is a down transfer from a pack, which those are very common. We've seen from our own guys leaving often. If you bring in a good player, the Smith's staff was always good at finding these kind of like mid-level, high major players who were just looking for a new place to play and snatch them up. Justin Powell of the world, and finding a role for them. Find guys like that, and then just even like one or two guys just to get some physicality, some skill on the team that you're not going into. You're not playing the Gales, you're not playing the Zags and getting your shit kicked in because they're just like so much more physical and capable than you are. Because we see that with Gonzaga, they just fucking run over the teams that don't have the physical tools that they have. Like they struggle against the team. This year they for much of the season they were struggling against teams that struggling to beat teams that were at their same level of recruiting and all that. But then once they started playing the West Coast Conference teams, where not a single player would start on their team, they would just win by 30. And I don't want to be one of those teams that's just bumping up Gonzaga's KenPom rating because they're pushing to win by 30 every game, or their net rating. And so I'd like us to fill out a roster. I hope Riley understands that it's got to be more than, I know he does. It's got to be more than his Big Sky roster last year. To even compete in the WCC, it's got to be better than the Big Sky roster. So and so I keeping Jalen would be ideal. Adding someone else, even keeping Yusufu, if they could figure out how to do that, that would be cool too. I keeping Kamani, just keeping the physicality in the program would be great. But you know what? We've seen the last couple years, like the whole Smith's tenure is just like throwing together a roster, a top 75 roster, just like out of bits and here and there. And so, you
Yep.
know what? If Riley has that same capability to build a roster, and I think he does, then I hold out hope that they're going to add some more impact guys to go with the very talented Eastern, like the best of the best from Eastern that they're bringing in. And I hope they do land. I would love if they landed Jones and Coward as well. And bring in those guys, add in a couple other transfers. And I do think there's a possibility if you build that, you have a team that maybe could be a fringe tournament team and push for it. Maybe upset Gonzaga at home or upset St. Mary's at home or whatever, and get some quad one victories. You know, be good enough to tally those and all that. Because honestly, I got that fucking taste of a tournament team, and I don't want to give it up right away.
More.
I don't want to.
I want more.
I don't want to go into the fucking doldrums that we had last time we had a tournament team. Like, I just don't want to do, and we switch coaches. I just don't want to do that.
Yep.
Like, it's just.
I'm with you.
Like, I want it. I want it more. So, David, build the damn roster. I know you're a good coach. You just get the players in, and also beat Gonzaga. That would be great.
Yes, that too. Shall we talk beer? What do you think?
Let me chug what's left of my first beer because I still have to get to my show beer.
You didn't start with the show beer.
I never do.
Well,
Because I usually drink it faster. I didn't drink it fast enough.
Hurry up.
Now we can test. I never start with a show beer because then there's a possibility that I haven't drank by the time we get to the beer time.
It's true.
And that's not
I just
fun.
finished my beer. I just finished my first beer.
So did I. Now I'm just rinsing the glass out.
But that was my show beer, so.
Well, Jeff, what are you drinking? What did you just finish?
Nothing very exciting. All right, so I have a Reuben's Brews Citra Crush. It's a hazy IPA. It is okay. So I'm going to tell you how Reuben's describes it, and then I'm going to tell you what I think. So Reuben's says, featuring the choicest Citra, not the regular Citra hops, but the choicest Citra hops. From
I want to see a
Washington's
brewery say
Yakima
like
Valley.
I want to see a brewery that says like featuring the hops that we could get, which let's
the
be honest,
leftovers that nobody else wanted.
Like, let's be honest, better breweries than us got the good ones. We just didn't have the budget for the good ones. So this is what you get.
Sorry. This is what you get.
Reuben's took the choice ones.
Reuben's took all the choicest ones, so now everybody else is left with the sloppy seconds. Featuring the choicest Citra hops from Washington's Yakima Valley. One sip of this hazy IPA is like standing under a storm cloud raining tropical fruit. Intensely juicy with notes of grapefruit
That sounds
and
like
mango.
a miserable experience.
Yeah, I guess.
A rainstorm of tropical fruit? That sounds like pain.
Sounds painful. I will say that the can art does have an umbrella with fruit laying on the ground next to the umbrella. So I don't know. I guess maybe you just need a good umbrella to protect you from all the fruit. All right. So that's how Reuben's Brews describes it. How I will describe it as pretty much just like every other hazy IPA. So it's good. It's juicy. It's a hazy IPA, and that's what I can say. Very drinkable, very nice, very pleasant. I love hazy IPAs. Like, I think they're great. It's just, this is what it is. They're not a lot distinguishing them at this point. So nice, drinkable beer that I have enjoyed, but also nothing special to write home about, which is fine. So
is it though? But I think that's
it is
a good description of Reuben's Crush series.
Yeah, fine is fine. Fine is okay. So now we're moving on to a Rogers Pilsner. What about you, man?
Well, I just poured it, and I wanted to test. You just got me this for my birthday. You got me this. What is it called? A Brewmate.
Yes.
So I wanted to test how cold it would keep my show beer in that first hour while I was waiting
Yeah.
to be drank. And I can report that it is done better than a regular koozie. It's
Woo!
still pretty solidly chilled.
Yes.
So yeah, sponsor us, Brewmate. And then I'll talk more about it. But other than that, I'm not saying another damn thing. But what I am drinking out of this, well, I got one of those like dimply kind of German looking mugs, which I love for lagers. And this is a lager. It is a Czech dark lager from Structures Brewing. That's just the name of the beer. I love me a dark lager. I will often go for it. Now we're getting to the time of year where I would less go for it, but still in the spring, I'll still go for a dark lager. And this one is very tasty. It's got very cool can art, as Structures often does. The first beer I had was also Structures Ritual West Coast IPA, which was fucking delicious. And apparently Ritual is a record store. So it was probably for Record Store Day, which was also 420. What a day.
Yes, it was.
You and I both
amazing confluence of events.
You and I both celebrated holidays. We celebrated them just a different holiday. But
yes,
we were together.
in different ways.
In
We
different
celebrated
ways.
the same day in different ways.
In different ways.
And then we watched the Sounders get their shit kicked in. But that's neither here nor there.
Let's fucking not talk about that.
Yeah, let's not.
But anyways, really cool can art. This owl. It's kind of like bronze, and the owl is like black and white. It'd be a sick tattoo, honestly.
Yeah.
Very cool. But yeah, Czech dark lager. It's very tasty. All what I would expect from a dark lager. It's got all the elements of a dark beer that you may like. If you like dark beers, like the roastiness, but with like a little bit lighter body, so it's a little bit more drinkable. And it's got that like kind of crisp lager finish. Very well done. Structures, obviously one of the best breweries in the state, just crushing it. A lot of people go for their hazies. I think their West Coast IPAs are fucking always on point. And then when they do these like lagers, dark lager, all their lagers, I've quite enjoyed most of them. And so yeah, I know I've probably had many Structures beers on here before, but having Structure, I've quit trying to be like, don't repeat breweries because we're 217 episodes in. I don't want to. I have my favorite breweries, and I don't want to sit here and explore too much at this point. But yeah, Structures, very good. Czech dark lager. It's kind of a style that's become in vogue more. It's probably a style you wouldn't have seen anywhere a couple of years ago, and now I'm seeing a lot of breweries start brewing this style called Czech dark lager. And I have enjoyed them. So keep it up. I think Wayfinder did one, obviously. If anyone would do them, they would. And then a few other like lager focused breweries have done them. So yeah, very good stuff. So good job, Structures, again, always good. But yeah, so beer, good times. I guess there's been some news also in the women's basketball universe. One positive bit of news is that Cammie Etheridge, they announced an extension for her, which seems like she's not going to leave then. Like, it just seems like that.
I mean,
that's
I
good.
think we're safe for at least a year.
Yeah, like I said, she's not going to leave this offseason, where there were a few jobs where I think maybe, Tennessee would have been smart to hire her, but
yes,
whatever. I'm glad she's still here.
Me too.
So she is, I think, going to return a lot of the players that she thought she would return when the season started, but with Joanna Tadare missing the entire season, she has another year and Charlize another year, COVID year. They're actually both have season eligibility, and both have entered the portal. Honestly, Charlize hitting the portal was like a gut punch, man. Like I don't know why, just like seeing that, like she's the Coug of Cougs, like my favorite Coug, and just being like, ugh, this sucks. And I hadn't even considered like Yo coming back, to be honest, and I hadn't thought about how she could. So yeah, they both entered the portal. Haven't heard news on that. Also, there's a lot less like reporting on like the offers that women's players are getting and stuff. So Charlize could very much, and I would expect her to be getting courted quite a bit. Teams could be wary because she's suffered an ACL injury in January, which means she might play at the start of next season, but might not. And then Yo has a play in a year, so teams, what they go by off there. But yeah, I have no doubt that Charlize has interest. I mean, if you put on some of these, like you and I were talking about this the other day, some like a high level elite program takes her and just puts her at point guard, surrounds her with talent, like she would just like be an incredible point guard, like, which is like where I kind of see her if she's going to make the WNBA, that's what she's going to be, as a point guard, and we know she has the ability to do that. But yeah, I just that was a real bummer to see her enter the portal and Yo enter the portal, especially after we get to see Yo play all year. But yeah, hopefully, I don't know, maybe they come back. Maybe Elise comes back. That would be awesome.
I mean,
maybe with Cammie coming back, they got a shot.
Yeah. I mean, it's nothing but good news that there hasn't been any news yet. Like,
yeah,
obviously, like you said, not a lot of, there's just not the breathless reporting on the offer lists and visits and things like that. So it's tougher to know exactly what's happening, exactly what's going on. But I mean, it's got to be a good thing that there's a possibility, and with both of those players, I don't fault them for looking around. I don't fault them for seeing what's out there. I feel like the fact that they haven't committed anywhere yet, at least makes me, I don't know, maybe there's a really good reason to think that I shouldn't be optimistic. Maybe somebody out there knows more than we do and is like, well, no, they're gone and they've already visited, blah, blah, blah. So, I mean, I don't know, maybe that's still out there, but I'm just going to go ahead and live in my little, ignorance is bliss cocoon over here and just, keep crossing my fingers and keep hoping that, every time I post a picture of my beer with my, Charlize bobblehead, that, that means maybe, just maybe, she might come back. But there are reasons why, maybe both those players aren't, getting the attention that you might think. And it's because of the injuries and, maybe there is, a crack of opportunity there, for WSU to say, hey, we know you, we take good care of you. We'll, we know what you can do. We'll be patient until you're healthy. And then, maybe that, creates a spot where, they're willing to come back after looking at what else is out there. So, I don't know. I mean, personally, if I was a program, Joanna, she, talented player. I don't know that she's a special kind of talent that teams would, high level teams would be willing to take a bit of a risk on, to land. Certainly not making any promises, right? But Charlize, it's like, I don't know, man. Players come back from knee injuries. That's not,
especially
that's
now.
Not that's just not the death sentence to your career that it was, 20 years ago. I mean, we're going on at least 10 years now of players having their knees reconstructed and coming back as good or better than ever. So Now the sticking point might be what you mentioned, which is, when is she actually able to play? And the college season is so short. 30 games is just nothing. It's a drop in the bucket. And so if teams are worried that they might not get her until, December or something, then, maybe there is some reservations there, on the part of some teams in terms of how much they're willing to commit, even though they know, just how good, Charlize can be. So I don't know, maybe it all works out to our benefit. I sure hope so.
Yeah. I think a lot of, I just scroll through, definitely, mostly people talking about how she's a big transfer portal target. And a lot of fans saying, hey, it would be great if she went here, but I don't see a lot of talk around like where she would be going. And again, that's, it's tough to, there's just not the reporting. Now, if you want to look at a program that is really been impacted by this move to the WCC for basketball, is Oregon State.
Oh my God.
Oregon State had almost no seniors. None of their good players. All their good players had eligibility left. They were kind of a dark horse national title contender this year.
Yeah.
And with the talent they potentially had returning, they were going to be a top 10, top 5 team. And they have been gutted by the portal so far. So obviously Reagan Beers entered the portal. Talia von Olhoffen entered the portal. They were two just elite players. And then you looked at Timmy Gardner and Lily Hansford. So just a lot of their core players. Donovan Hunter, sorry. So that's 5 of their top players who are, top. They're all going to be targets people are going to want to get in the portal, and they're in the portal, and so that's just that's rough. They were legit going to just run the WCC next year, and then they were no doubt
they would have been the Gonzaga of women's basketball, the WCC, right? They would have gone and just smacked everybody around and probably won 30 games and.
Which also
there's no reason why they would.
Gonzaga's also been that recently.
Yeah, and it's there's no reason why they wouldn't have dominated and still been an extremely high seed heading into the tournament.
Yeah, so it sucks. Yeah, they're just it's all bailing. So bummer for Beavs fans because that was really that had. It was already a special team last year, and they had a real potential to be a super special team next year. But this is the world we live in the world that has been foisted upon Wazoo and Oregon State. Thank you, all you fucking assholes, in purple and in green and gold, and in whatever the fuck USC calls their colors, and whatever the fuck powder blue or whatever that shit UCLA wears. Fuck off, all of you.
Yeah.
Have fun traveling a lot next year.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyways, this has been ranting about. I was legit excited to watch the Oregon State team next year, even though they were probably going to kill us. But I just think we are now what's left over. We have a better prospect going forward next year at the moment than Oregon State does.
Yep. I know. It's
weird. with our returning
weird
players, so yeah, it's so weird. This is such a weird time. It's such a weird time. Sometimes we're aggressively facing the changes now that we're towards the end of the academic calendar. All the basically it's just baseball and track and field and spring sports left. We're getting to it, and it's becoming very real. Once basketball season ended, it became very real. Obviously,
yep.
we've been hit a couple times, but Oregon State has been hit a lot. But yeah, so yeah, Jeff, we haven't even mentioned yet about how we have the option for people to become premium subscribers, which honestly, when we thought about this, we thought like what would be valuable, and we thought about like why do people like 247? Why do people like 7? It's like the discussion board. And so we started this Slack, and man, it has blown up. Like all of our subscribers have just like fully embraced this premium Slack we have, and it's a blast, man. Like we don't even have to drive the convo. Like I'm like off my phone for 2 hours, and then I go back, and there's like that Slack is just like blown up, and I have like so many comments to catch up on. So I've been really excited about it. So if you like stuff like that, that's part of the premium subscription, and I think a lot of people have found value in it. People love sharing their dirt they got. People love just talking. There's a lot of very smart people. Really reminds me of the peak Coug Center comment section back in the day. Just like a bunch of very smart Cougs having like good combos, and very connected people and stuff. So it's a good time, Jeff. I think it was. I'm glad you finally pulled the trigger and got us started on that, because
Yeah.
you can't rely on me to do anything.
It's just been like super fun and really intelligent, fun banter with people back and forth about all kinds of stuff, Coug stuff, obviously, but just also all sorts of other stuff like European soccer and what kind of beers
The
you're
Mariners.
drinking, and the Mariners, and what else are you watching on TV? Like all kinds of stuff.
What
So,
are you listening to?
yeah, it's been cool. What are you listening to? Which, right now is Pearl Jam Dark Matter over and over and over again, after getting my special record from Easy Street after we went up there on Saturday. That was definitely the highlight of the night, hanging out with Craig on Saturday after the Sounders did whatever
that was the
they
highlight. Did. Yeah, that was the highlight for me too. You were so excited. Like when I saw it,
I was thrilled.
I saw that they had it still, because apparently they got plenty of them. But like I was so as someone who like follows in the beer game and the fitted hat game, just follows like hyped releases, and I'm like, and so I have this like nervousness of like, if you don't get it right away, it's gonna be gone. Yeah. And I was so worried, and I was like, I don't want to be disappointed, but you had been like, it's fine if I just get the regular, if I just get the record store day one, it'll be okay. And then we got there, green and gold. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if they still had some. There was plenty.
they had quite a few. Yeah,
I think because Easy Street's the only one that got the in Washington. That was part of why I was worried, but they also got all of the stock, obviously. But yeah, I was really excited that you got that. The record looks sick as shit. And yeah, it was good. It was a good record. It was fun to listen to that with you on the way up. So good times.
It sounds fantastic. So yeah, so folks, podcastversuseveryone.com, and sign up for the newsletter. Upgrade. It's if you do the annual upgrade, it's like $4 a month, a little over $4 a month. So you get all the access you want, some premium stuff, including Bryce's, crazy awesome breakdowns of Eastern Washington University's offense. So you know what's coming to Pullman. And
if we were better at this, we would have mentioned those earlier.
Yeah, but we're not. So
yeah, we suck at this. And then we've also recorded a couple kind of, and we'll do more of these. A couple members only short podcast episodes. A silly one with my favorite Beer Star bartender, where she like made fun of me a lot and talked about what it's like watching Beer Star become a Coug bar. That was fun. And then where we've done some Q&As as well. So, and we'll do those again.
Yep.
Like, they won't be every time, but we'll do those again. You gotta let people build up. Oh, we also had on top of those great pieces from Bryce. He did an AMA. Ask Me Anything. on Saturday as well, and I think he's open to doing another one with this follow-up piece. I'm not committing him to that though, but I think he seemed to enjoy it, and it was the great insights on the AMA, and great insights on the pieces. It was a cool bonus. After we didn't promise a single thing from the premium subscription other than the Slack, we've already had some bonus stuff, which I think is pretty cool.
Yeah.
But yeah. So yeah, and also, by the way, we charge money for it. It also enables us to pay people like Bryce to write things like that.
Yes.
And
which is cool.
Potentially pay cool people to come on the podcast and stuff like that. And so that's what it's about, maybe. Yeah. So yeah, go ahead if you really like us, go ahead and subscribe. We're having a good time. There's actually been quite a few subscribers already, and it's a lot of fun. But yeah, so do that. That's our plug. So I guess that's all we have left to say is go fucking Cougs, Jeff.
Go fucking Cougs, Craig. Black Lives Matter.
Black Lives Matter.
Get vaccinated.
Yep.
Support a union.
Hell yeah.